All set.
Okay, welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting. Today is Wednesday, May 14th, 2025. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Angeles Papa George, will you lead us?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. So, Christine gave me a present, a gavel, which I've never used before. So, if I missed and hit my finger, but bringing this meeting is called to order. Just want to start by saying that we run our meetings according to Robert's rules by charter. And last meeting devolved into yelling and people talking over each other, not in accordance with Robert's rules. And I'm going to try to do a better job. I think and I've heard from people who've said, you know, they expect the Board of Selectmen to do better, to be able to talk and debate things productively. And I agree. And last week was not a good look for the town. Or was it 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, not a good look for the town. So we're going forward, we're going to try really hard to keep order by running the meetings according to Robert's rules. And if we do need a refresher on Robert's rules, then we'll have a special meeting with the appropriate people to sort of run us through Robert's rules again and make sure that we all understand what our obligations are under that. So with that, let's start the meeting. Item number 3, this is Joe Gaudette. I see he's online. Fairfield County Regional Dispatch Center Director, to hear, consider, and act on approving a service agreement between the Fairfield County Regional Dispatch Center, or FCRD, and Motorola Solutions for 8 radio dispatch consoles for the FCRD in the amount of $72,097.54. Funding budgeted in account number 1230450-53200. May I have a motion? Seconded. Joe, you want to tell us? How are you?
I am well, thanks. How are you, sir?
Are you up on the Sacred Heart campus right now?
I'm actually up on the Cape of Cod.
Oh, nice, nice.
It's a beautiful sunny day up there.
Oh, gosh. Well, tell us about the Motorola contract.
Well, the most important thing I'm happy to report is that it has been budgeted for in the current fiscal year. And what this entails is our system upgrade agreement. We have entered into a long-term agreement with Motorola, and what this provides us with is hardware, software, and implementation services to keep our radio system up to date. It's really a very smart play on the part of the town to buy this service agreement, I believe, because we'll never have to come to you with requesting millions of dollars for a system upgrade, because this is done automatically every couple of years. So I would encourage you to approve it, and I can answer any more questions that you might have.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions or comments from the board? Any from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Unanimous, Joe. Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Enjoy the rest of your day on vacation.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
You bet.
Item number 4 is Tim Bishop here. You always do that. Wait to make a grand entrance. Conservation Director, and this received TPZ Conservation and Inland Wetlands approval, but it requires the RTM approval as well. To hear, consider, and act on accepting a land donation from Dean Cardamus of Cardamus Construction, LLC, to the town of Fairfield of a portion of 220 Pansy Road, referred to as proposed parcel A, consisting of about 7.807 acres. May I have a motion? Seconded. Tim.
Thank you. Thank you to the board for having me and hearing this potential acceptance of land donated to the town. I think most of the public and the board is probably familiar with this location, the former Pansy Road Farm. It's been there for a while. The parcel would fall to the Conservation Commission, roughly 8 acres or so, mostly a red maple swamp. Little to, it might have potential for recreational value, but probably not. I think it's pretty well inundated underwater. And it is a large parcel, and it does extend from Pansy Road north to the backside of the Old Navy Shopping Plaza. For conservation purposes, it's strategic to protect this kind of the headwater of this wetland system with development pressure, as we've seen from Stilson, obviously Black Rock Turnpike and the surrounding area. There will be frontage, roughly 50 feet of frontage access from Pansy Road, so we will have access to it and could explore some type of passive or active recreation if we could put a trail there, maybe not. But either way, I think it's a great acquisition. Appreciate Mr. Cardemus' donation. This all came about through an inland wetland permit to remove the barn and the existing farmhouse, and those will be developed with 2 single-family homes. So I guess in relative development terms, the donation with the 2 single-family homes is somewhat of a win as far as preventing further development and a subdivision or anything like that. So I support the acceptance, and other boards have as well. So that's the reason why it's before Board of Selectmen today.
I think the acceptance, does that fend off potential encroachment on this area?
I think it does, and I mean, in the end, the wetlands regulations and the unstable wetland soil aren't good for development anyway. So that almost serves that purpose as well. But the fact that it adds to our inventory of open space is always a good thing. We will have some control with of land use and surrounding land use.
And open space, wetlands like this, is it expensive to maintain?
No, I don't really foresee any cost to the town of ownership.
So it's an insurance policy, sort of.
Yeah, and just overall land preservation and natural resource preservation.
Right. Any questions from the board?
Any just concerns about now that we're going to be owning this flooding onto private property? Would the town be liable for anything like that, or?
I don't think it really changes our exposure to anything. There's no additional input into the system, so and it will remain in its natural state. So I don't foresee. There's a water course that goes under Pansy Road, further south towards Stilson, and eventually down to towards Brookside. But I don't see any potential changes. It's still going to do the same thing whether we own it or not.
The water on the property is all rainwater or stormwater runoff, basically.
Yeah, it's low lying, and it's poor to very, very poorly drained soils, which defines wetlands. But it is inundated, and that's what red maple swamps usually are: seasonal fluctuation, and then it does drain south under the road through a channelized water course. And that is, we would have that access from Pansy Road.
Just ask, and speaking to some people that live on Mill River with just erosion and looking to the town to kind of help with other issues that may arise, and just want to make sure that we're not necessarily, by accepting this land, accepting potential future issues for these 2 new homes that are going to be abutting it. It sounds like we're not, so sounds like a win-win.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
you, Brenda.
I'm familiar with this. We were looking at trying to purchase this from the original owner. Tim remembers. Not a very easy person to work with, but we were concerned about a major development there, 8-30G, and we were hoping to purchase some piece of it through land acquisition to have a community garden or something like that. But I was pleased that the dean, decided to build something what I think is reasonable, and that we would have some access there. And to Tim's point, I think it's good for, for the conservation to have that additional, because we know that even with some of these 8-30s, they're allowed to go into wetlands, they're allowed to disturb areas if they want, so I think this is a good deal for us, for the town, and protecting our wetland areas. So thanks for your work on this, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, Tim.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So item number 5, I'd like to ask for a motion to postpone this item to a date uncertain, because there's a state bill that if enacted, the town would need to sign a document with the state to accept the machines. So the lease in today's backup is no longer relevant. This is HB number 7129 in session year 2025, an act concerning the transfer to municipal officials of voting tabulators and accessories purchased by the Secretary of the State. So we have a motion to, I guess we should remove it from the agenda, right? As opposed to...
If you don't think that we're going to be hearing it at a future date,
I don't.
I guess we don't even need to move it forward.
And we could just put it on the agenda if at some point in the future we need to do it, but I'm not sure we know the date, so.
Or it'll just be postponed.
Without date certain?
Without a date certain.
Motion to, can I have a motion to postpone this item to a future date to be determined? Brenda, thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay, any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we are moving on to item number 6. So this Adam Tulin and Angeles Papageorge is here. Purchasing Authority to hear, consider, and act on authorizing the Purchasing Authority to enter into the proposed contract between the Town of Fairfield and Gold Seal Roofing, Inc. of Middletown, Connecticut, to provide all labor, materials, equipment, and all else necessary to replace existing roof areas at Stratfield Elementary School. State project number 051-0161RR, as detailed in Town of Fairfield bid number 2025-48, and the Gold Seal bid submission dated April 24th, 2025, for a total contract of $695,000, with additional authority to enter into necessary change orders in an amount not to exceed the approved funding for this project. May I have a motion? Angeles.
So this was really, Adam, this is a bid. We went through the process and we're ready to award at this point to get these projects completed before school starts in the fall again. So any questions about the project?
None at all. It's the low bid. Adam, are you on?
Yes, thank you. I'm here. Yes, I was just having trouble getting unmuted.
Okay. Anything you want to talk about regarding, this bid, or
I'll just mention that this and the next item have already gone through the Special Project Standing Building Committee for review. We've got great turnout in terms of bids. Off the top of my head, I can't remember which was which, but we got 5 bids for one of them and 6 for the other. We've never worked with Gold Seal before, but we've got great reviews from them, from Silver Petrocelli, the architect on the job. So I think that's encouraging that we got a couple new bidders participating. This is one of 3 projects we'll be doing this summer. So, it'll be busy time.
Thank you. And all of those comments go for the item number 7 as well. So maybe that'll make that easier. Any questions or comments from the board?
No, just excited that we have a new vendor potentially to be working with that's coming highly regarded. Always like to broaden the field there.
Yeah, same here. Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye. Item number 7, same, Adam Tulin and Angeles Papageorge. To hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed contract between the town of Fairfield and Gold Seal Roofing, Inc. of Middletown, Connecticut, to provide all labor, materials, equipment, and all else necessary to replace existing roof areas at Tomlinson Middle School, state project number 051-0162-RR, as detailed in Town of Fairfield bid number 2025-49, and the Gold Seal bid submission dated May 1st, 2025, for a total contract of $1,248,000, with additional authority to enter into necessary change orders in an amount not to exceed the approved funding for this project. Andres, anything that wasn't said in the last?
Same
Yeah.
company, same project.
Adam, anything in addition to?
The only thing I would add, just for the record, is in addition to Silver Petroselli giving us a strong recommendation, they did complete scope reviews with this bidder for each project. So I just wanted to mention that was taken care of.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Did I second that? You read it. I don't know if I seconded it.
Oh,
Well, seconded.
seconded?
And,
Okay, thank you. Retroactive.
I don't know.
Yes, excited to have this work get going. And with Tomlinson, can you remind me, that will be done to accommodate the HVAC installation?
Consecutive with the HVAC project going on there, correct.
Right. So any other comments from the board or questions?
So special projects is still doing the roof though, not the.
Correct.
All right. No. No questions.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Angeles.
Thank
I'm going to see you again today.
2 times is enough.
Thanks a lot, Angela. Item number 8, the purchasing authority, Adam Tulin and Anthony Calabrese. Is Anthony on the line? Are you?
Anthony reached out to me. He probably won't be able to make it on time, but I can handle this unless you have any strange questions that come up. But
No, this one, to hear, consider, purchasing authority, to hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed contract between the town of Fairfield and an EP Experience of Stratford, Connecticut, to provide seasonal food and beverage concession services at Penfield Pavilion, as detailed in Town of Fairfield RFP number 2025-38, and the EP Experience RFP submission dated April 24th, 2025, for an initial 2-year contract with up to 3 one-year optional extensions upon mutual agreement. May I have a motion? Okay, Adam.
yes, thank you. Again, this is Adam Tulin from Purchasing. So we put out an RFP for seasonal food and beverage at Penfield. Obviously, that facility has been on hold for the last couple of years. But prior to that, we had been with, we had a great track record with our previous provider for a number of years. And it wasn't a matter of being unhappy, it was just the end of a contract term. So we put out this RFP. We got 3 great submissions, including the incumbent and 2 new vendors. We brought all 3 in for an interview process. And after thorough review, the committee made the decision to award to an EP Experience. I believe that's their full name. They currently have, they're currently operating a similar concession stand at Silver Sands State Park, so they do have some experience. And I'll just also mention that our outgoing vendor he's still located at Jennings Beach, so we aren't totally losing that experience. So that's about it. The fee proposal is satisfactory. It's a lease that comes back to the town for the use of the space. I guess it's worth mentioning it's a little bit lower than what the department had initially budgeted, but not a concerning amount once you factor in things like utilities that the vendor also pays for that come from the same pot of money. So we're looking forward to this, a 2-year base contract with 3 optional years to extend upon mutual agreement.
Fantastic. And did the Connecticut, so it's Center for the Blind has an option to bid, right?
Yes,
they did not bid on this contract?
So we actually, by statute, we have to provide them an opportunity before we go out to bid, and give them the opportunity to either accept or decline. They came and looked at the facility, and just they like the facility, they're interested in it, but they didn't have any interested parties at the time. Basically, they help entrepreneurs get started, and they just didn't have anyone at this time, so we were allowed to go out for the RFP.
Okay, and this coming year is season at the marina. I believe it's their 2nd year there. But
the Bureau for the Blind are over at the marina, yes, and this will be their 2nd year. Yep.
Okay, well, fantastic. Any comments or questions from the board?
I have a couple questions for Anthony, but nothing. I think it starts on Saturday. Was there any discussion of them starting on the Friday of Memorial Day weekend? But nothing. I mean, I can follow up with him.
Yeah, I would have to check with Anthony. I do know we made very clear during the interview process that the expectation is to be open for Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Not sure what kind of permitting hurdles there might be and things like that, but it's all hands on deck to get this thing going.
Okay. Yeah. Exciting. And I guess my only other comment, I guess they can sell glow sticks and balloons for fireworks and town events. I would just say maybe not have the balloons just for fear of them going into Long Island Sound. Putting it on the record, having dealt with balloons at the high school, I know that there's just been concern about them ending up in the water. But excited. I mean, that they have a mobile truck as well, and some potentially they could be using them for other events. So looking forward to establishing a new relationship with this vendor.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a good question about balloon.
It's just, and there was like an example, it's not make or break, but maybe just something to be, cognizant of, and I don't know if they would even want to do that, but.
Right, okay, yeah, that's worth following up on, for sure. Because of the impact on birds, right?
On birds and other wildlife, just going back to when the high schools used to tie them to mailboxes at graduation time, that there was a big discussion, and the balloons have been phased out to signs for just concerns about pollution.
Any other comments from the board? Ms. Kopchik?
No.
Oh, thank you. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, unanimous. Thank you, Adam. Item number 9. This is Adam Tulin and Mark Barnhart, but I don't see Mark. So Adam, can you?
He's remote.
Oh, he is remote? Adam, hey. To hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed contract between the town of Fairfield and Connecticut Demolition LLC of Bridgeport, Connecticut, to provide labor, materials, equipment, and all else necessary to complete the demolition project at 254 Greenfield Street as detailed in Town of Fairfield bid number 2025-54 and the Connecticut demolition bid submission dated April 22nd, 2025, for a total contract value not to exceed $29,000, with additional authority to enter into necessary change orders in an amount not to exceed the approved funding for this project. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Adam, go ahead. Adam or Mark, I guess.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. So we put this bid out. We received a pretty strong response. We got 4 bids back. Connecticut Demolition was the low bidder. I will say it's sort of a lower dollar, but just because of, so initially I wasn't anticipating preparing a full-on contract for this, but just because of the nature of the work, I spoke with the town attorney Pierce, and he put together a contract for us for this. So that's what we have before you. If you have any questions about the specific project, hopefully Mark can help you with that.
So you put together a contract as opposed to just an RFP?
For this dollar amount, I normally would probably recommend just issuing a purchase order.
But what was the rationale? Was it because of, you've got gas connections and all that, right?
Yeah, just, potential, obviously we hope everything goes smoothly, but just the nature of the work, demolition and whatnot.
Right.
Attorney Pierce felt it was safer to go with a fairly generic but strong contract, and so that's what we have presented.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the board?
Mark, what is this to demolish?
Yeah, the board will recall, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, the board will recall that we purchased this property back late last year the intent is to demolish the existing very modest structure that is there and make way for a new development with Habitat for Humanity to build new duplexes for affordable home ownership units on the site to continue the project that we started next door at 244 Greenfield Street. So we are using community development block grant dollars to do the site clearance work to facilitate the eventual redevelopment of the property. And to Adam's point, and also Attorney Pierce, due to the funding source, it would be preferable, I think, to have a contract, not only in terms of the nature of the work, but because we're using federal dollars for this purpose. So it kind of protects everyone. The contractor will have to abide by Davis-Bacon prevailing wage, provide certified payrolls and the like, and comply with all their other federal requirements. So again, it's probably, to be err on the side of conservancy, it's probably best to have a contract in place for this work.
Thank you, Mark. Any other comments or questions from the board?
I'm actually now really, I'm sorry I didn't read my backup before the meeting. I don't know how this works. I'm actually related to these people. And I don't have any vested interest in this company at all, but I just flipped the page and saw the name, and so I think I'm just going to abstain.
No, just recuse yourself.
Yes, I'm going to recuse myself, so I'm not going to ask a question.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for that. So it'll just be the two of us for a vote. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor say aye.
Recused.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
The voting members, it's unanimous. And
I do think it's a great project, though. I'm really excited that we're continuing on with Habitat. It's really
we are as well.
Very happy, very excited.
Thank you, Mark. Item 10, Senior Civil Engineer Megan Jane. I don't know if she's on. Yes, she is on. To hear, consider, and act on approving an easement agreement between the town of Fairfield and Sacred Heart University, Incorporated, for a portion of 5120 Park Avenue. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mega.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So this is an easement that we would like to have from from Sacred Heart University for the traffic signal, the new traffic signal is going to be installed on, construction is going to be starting on May 18th. And we already had acquired the northern western side. This is another side, which is the eastern side of the Sacred Heart University, where we will be installing mast arm onto their property, a little bit of 725 square feet of area that we will require from Sacred Heart University. So this easement is for that purpose that we need from Sacred Heart. They approved the easement last week on Friday, and now it's on us to approve the easement.
Thank you. Well, this project benefits Sacred Heart. Any comments from the board or questions?
Just to clarify, it's an easement on our property or theirs?
On theirs.
Okay.
So Sacred Heart is funding part of this project, right, Mega?
Yes, we are splitting 50-50.
But the project is being managed by the town.
Exactly, yes.
So I think it's a 50-50 split, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none. Comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Yes, thanks.
Item 11, and the Fairfield Parking Authority. Eileen Flores is here to consider, and act on authorizing the town of Fairfield to enter into an agreement with Integrated Technical Systems, Inc. for fire system upgrades, improvements, and renovations. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Eileen.
So we've worked with a number of different fire protection companies, looked at a number, and we chose them, this Integrated Technical Services. They've done a fair amount of work with the state, which is a big plus. And we're going to be putting in fire protection systems in both of the two Fairfield train station houses. And their bid was $29,397, plus we, in the parking authority, added an extra 20% to cover if there'll be some drawings, and if the state has any edits or wants them to add additional equipment, then that would cover those extra charges. So we've allotted about $35,000 and change in the parking authority's account for this project. And once, if we get the approval, then I'll contact the state if there's any permits that have to be made with the fire marshal at the state. And then we'll submit the drawings, the work will start. And I don't know how long it will take because the state would have to do all the inspections, and sometimes that adds on time. But if it completes before July 1st, it would just all automatically come out of the parking authority's account. If it flows into July, then it would come out of the town's account, but it would be the parking authority's money that's transferred over.
Well, thank you for working with the town attorney on this, and he was very involved in this. I appreciate that. And also, I guess, important to note that the town and the parking authority are both parties to the agreement.
Yeah, that's, when I first talked with Phil Pierce, is that we didn't know. I said to him, I don't know when this will complete, so who should sign this? And he said, let's just have both parties. This way it covers everybody.
After July 1st, it then becomes the town.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Yes.
On the page from ITS, it says the quote does not include permit fees, engineering fees, or tying into the Dolphin Pizza system. Is there a plan to tie in?
We might tie into their system. We're going to take a look at that and see what's involved. But either way, Naughty Dolphin has to have their own fire system, like code and so on. So they have that, but we could tie into it. We'd have to see what's involved. But I think the 20%, if it didn't cover that, then that might be we'd have to go back.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
But otherwise, it covers like the drawings and any additional engineering fees, all of that, the 20% should cover.
Okay, so then after this is approved, that conversation can be had with Naughty Dolphin and move that piece
Yeah,
of it
we
along?
already met
Or
with
just
them
in
when they
terms
came
of-
out. We met with Naughty Dolphin, they showed the vendor their whole system, and he said, you know, it can stand alone, but if you decided you wanted to tie it in, then that's an option we could entertain. So I think what will happen is the state will tell us, you really should, or you don't need to, whichever they decide is what we'll have to do.
Who, is someone from DPW working with you, or like?
No, it's all state, because this is, the state fire marshal's office has to be the ones involved.
Right,
So
okay.
they're gonna steer this whole thing.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I would just like to say, you know, Eileen, it was announced at the last meeting that you were going to be leaving your position. And I just wanted to personally thank you for your many years of really great service to our community and especially to the commuters. You always did your job with a high level of professionalism, and the commuters and the authority really, the commission really appreciated your work. And I just wanted to thank you, and I wish you well.
Thank you so much, I really appreciate that.
And if you change your mind, just let us know.
Yes.
But, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for your service, and I do hope you change your mind, so think about it.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great, all right.
Unanimous. Thank you, Eileen.
I'll get on this tomorrow morning. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Item number 12, Troy Deering is here, Capital Projects and Operations Construction Project Manager. To hear, consider, and adopt a bond resolution referred to as a resolution amending and restating a resolution entitled a resolution appropriating $2,859,433 for the costs associated with the replacement of the bridge over Ash Creek, authorizing acceptance of a grant to fund $2,759,433 of such appropriation, and authorizing the issuance of bonds to finance $100,000 of such appropriation, provided that acceptance of the grant is contingent upon the town receiving from the city of Bridgeport its commitment to make the required contribution for the design phase to increase the appropriation from $2,859,433 to $5,009,608, to authorize the acceptance and application of additional grant funds in the amount of $1,587,705 to fund a portion of the amended appropriation, to authorize the acceptance of various credits in the amount of $562,470, to fund a portion of, let me read that again. Acceptance of various credits in the amount of $562,470 to fund a portion of the amended appropriation, and to authorize the issuance of bonds in the amount of $100,000 to finance the balance of the amended appropriation. See the full resolution in the backup. 10-year board requires Board of Finance and RTM approval. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Troy.
So just to follow up on the contract approval that we requested 2 weeks ago in the meeting, I had mentioned that the project was bid at a higher number than what the original estimates were in 2017, which was fine. We went through the proper process and Lot SIP approved. We met all the requirements still. The contractors were approved by the state. And this is the acceptance of that increase of Lot SIP. So the project will still be fully funded by the Lot SIP grant. The state approved and is ready to dispense that grant to us. And Bridgeport, like you have seen, is still in accordance with all their responsibility as well. So if we can get this accepted in this Board of Selectmen, we'll move it through the other councils as well. And that way we can add on to the contracts that were approved 2 weeks ago as an amendment and increase the funds for both the contractor and the inspector firm required by the Lotson firm.
And I think I asked this last time, but can you remind me the time frame for you're expecting to start work?
Yeah, we're still looking to start the actual bridge construction in June. Utility work, as some of you might have noticed, has already begun and is actually almost complete. Burns is finishing up the temporary gas in preparation for the new permanent gas. And all the overhead should be moved within the next week or so. Frontier is the last to do that. And then as these contracts go through the legal process, they're working with Adam and the legal team right now. We're still looking to start at sometime in June. But everybody's been on board. We've had discussions already and already some behind-the-scenes work with those two contractors.
Fantastic. Okay. Any questions from the board? Yeah, we talked about this 2 weeks ago, so
That's okay.
I just couldn't remember what the time frame was. Any comments from the public? Back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Thanks, Troy. Item 13, to consider and act upon tax refunds as recommended by the tax collector in the amount of $26,518.30. May I have a motion?
So moved.
All right. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. I don't know. Item 14, First Selectman updates. To hear updates from the First Selectman. First one is the School Facilities Working Group. I don't see Eli on this call, so I can, do you know if Eli was coming for this? So I will give the update because I was in a meeting today. The engineering firm gave a meeting with the capital projects team and Superintendent Testani, Chairman of the Board of Ed, Jeff Peterson, that's it. So they walked us through what they have looked at, and they've looked at a lot. They have gone through Dwight, done a site study. They have not done the borings to test the soil yet, but they have walked through the building and looked at the ed specs. They have gone and looked. They still have quite a lot more work to do at the Dwight site. They have done work at the Giant Steps site, the building across from where the alternative school is right now. And this is news. They have determined that that building should be demolished. And so they have determined that the steel beams in the ceiling, that it's not surface rust, but actually weaken the structure, and replacing those beams would be very expensive. Plus, among other things, microbial, some growth, basically mold in enough places, and the stairwells would have to be replaced for structural reasons. So they have determined that unless we were in love with the building structure, it would not be worth renovating that structure. So that is the first stake in the ground. So we agreed as a group that we are not going to be pursuing a renovation of that building. So we're going to demolish that building. We are also they are studying alternative access roads to that site to alleviate the issues on Barberry, some of the traffic issues and safety issues for the people that live on that street. And they think there are definitely alternative ways to, roads that we could put in place. But they still have work to do. They need to get someone in to do more extensive work. The borings, I believe, are happening.
Next week?
Next week, the end of May. So we'll, pretty soon we'll get a feedback on the soil characterization of the soil. They've gone through Mona Terrace, and I guess they were kind of surprised that the building is in pretty decent shape. All the renovations that have been done, but really don't have yet specifics on what it would take to put a 5-classroom ECC on that site for any period of time. So there's still a lot of work to do, but a lot's been done, and we'll report back. I think the website that's been promised should be going live tomorrow, very soon, with some of these updates posted on the website. Yes.
Just for the building at Barbary, so I guess the next steps, we don't need to wait for the group to finish their work, to just in terms of demolishing and planning for the waterfall, and because that project is not currently on the waterfall.
The
demolition of that building. And one of the reasons why I supported taking this route was I had a question about that building, and I know just it is somewhat risk. Just I know that there's been people trespassing in that building in the past. There's a fence around it, there's security, but I think we need to plan for it to come down, and I'm sure the price tag is not going to be small on that.
I think we are going to explore the pricing ASAP, because I think we and the police and the fire all feel that this is a big potential liability, and it keeps getting broken into, and we don't want some sort of disaster there. So, I'm quite happy that at least we have a definitive answer on that building. It would have been nice to hear that, it's got great bones. That's not what we heard. So, and they did more extensive work than just a cursory walkthrough. So they're very confident that that building really has to go.
Well, it's good information to have from a planning perspective.
We can no longer plan for a renovation of that building, although when it comes down, there's going to be a lot of discussion about what can go there, whether it be fields or, whether it'll be a 10 or 12 classroom ECC. That has not been decided yet. So
I think that I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves in terms of what potentially from a town perspective could go there. It is good to know that building needs to come down and it's not feasible, and in some ways that makes it, opens up the possibilities for other things.
It's just one thing that we can now, it narrows the decision trees going forward, makes it one less branch of the decision tree.
And for Mona Terrace, did they do any initial work in terms of state funding, if any reimbursement potential at that building? I know that the town has looked at that building in the past and opted not to renovate it just due to it being in a floodplain. Being in a floodplain, and they may not have gotten to that point yet.
They're not quite ready to make a definitive, statement on that. We did talk about, the 50%, the FEMA 50% rule, but they don't have an estimate for what it would take to get the area where Giant Steps is into shape for the ECC.
Where Child's Garden is.
Where Child's Garden is for a ECC. We've talked about, we're planning to use that space for a temporary ECC. That was the Board of Ed's plan. And whether or not it could be renovated and be, super nice for a larger, more permanent ECC is a question. as it relates to the 50% rule, how much that would cost and whether or not that would pierce the 50%, which right now is about 3.6 million. But will probably go up with the valuation, with the appraisal.
And there's a good, just in terms of bringing it up to code for reopening as a public school.
Yeah.
The likelihood of state reimbursement, I know that was something else that they were going to just explore.
Right.
And is there any other, because we also talked about looking at Lana Terrace for other town uses, for the health department.
Yes.
So I don't know if.
They are looking at it for the health department.
As well, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the update.
Sure.
Excited to hear some of that work.
Christine, did I miss anything? Okay. Any questions or about that? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the other element, did they go to Riverfield and Osborne Hill? Was there any, I know that when the Board of Ed had discussed it, there was concerns about wetlands.
They did go to Riverfield and Osborne Hill, and Riverfield, they believe, is not really an option.
Okay.
And a lot of that has to do with
Drainage.
yeah, drainage with the, yeah, is it wetlands or
There's
that
that.
area behind it? Osborne Hill, they are going to look into further because they see a possibility of being able to build a 5-section ECC like at the top of the hill.
Okay.
So, and you know, they believe the Osborne Hill site is more amenable because of parking and you know, entry, you know, and egress. So, and, yeah, it's got a lot of entry, you know, a lot of area facing roads, and whereas traffic at Riverfield is a much bigger problem.
And just the access in and out of
Right.
the school as it is right now.
So these are all sort of moving pieces. They're looking at, they're going to be starting hopefully soon the Jennings traffic study and observing at different times. And they have to move quickly. If they don't get that done soon, they're going to have to do it in September. But they're going to have to, we didn't really get a full assessment on whether the structure can handle a second floor for a part of the building. They were going to look at a second floor to move the older kids up and have the ECC on the first floor. So there's still moving pieces with that. Right now, the only thing they did say that, you know, and to my surprise and many others in the room, that Osborne Hill is worth keeping on the possibilities, but that Riverfield is not. So, yeah, that's about it. And the next item is.
Do we have like some sense of when we may know for sure, like which direction we'll be going?
Well, the report is due in beginning of August, and then the report will be delivered to the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed's going to have the information, as will everyone in town. The Board of Ed will take that information and have to determine which direction they want to go. But hopefully some of it will be obvious, and some of the things that were on the matrix will just get crossed off, like Riverfield. So 2 things have been crossed off so far, which is great. Giant Steps has been crossed off, and Riverfield's been crossed off. So those branches of the decision tree are no longer going to be there. But I'm not sure going forward whether or not they'll be able to narrow this down to an extent where it'll be obvious, you know, which direction to go, but at least the choices will be fewer, you know, but it'll be the Board of Ed's decision.
So do we think they'll be discussing it for, you know, maybe a month and then come forward to the Board of Selectmen with a request?
Well, I think if they get it in August, it's hard to say, you know, we don't have the borings yet, the soil samples yet, or anything like that.
Yeah.
They also don't have yet a structural evaluation of the Dwight School. because they don't really know whether or not all the walls are load bearing, and whether or not, if they move a wall, whether, to reconfigure the space, what that would mean in terms of cost. If they're all load bearing, that'll make it hard to reconfigure the walls. They'd be stuck with just, putting dividers, dividing walls in. So none of this, so it's hard to say yet whether or not there's going to be any obvious, choices at Dwight. It may just ultimately be an easy decision to make.
I know that, there's a lot of, interest, obviously, and that Dwight parents, are concerned about, the condition of Dwight, and I know other people are. So that's why I asked.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, the Board of Ed, they had approved a plan for Dwight. That's, I think it's really up to them whether or not they want to revisit that plan. They moved forward. They approved their ed specs at their meeting last night. So they're still, I think, preparing, but I think that, there's still, I guess, information that needs to come back. But I think they're trying to do as much as they can, just in watching their meetings as they can while we're trying to get this information. But, all right.
Yeah, so when this information gets them in August, and they have their ed specs, they hired a consultant to help them with the ed specs, and I think they were posted last night.
Yep, they got approved last night.
So if they look at what's possible with the renovation and the potential cost of that versus, their ed specs, and they'll look at, whether or not it's, what they can do on the existing site is enough, because it is a smaller site. If they determine that that's just not adequate, I would imagine they're going to come, and assuming that the soil is okay, I would imagine they'd come back with something similar that they were going to pursue last time, and then it will go through the process. But we'll have done all the work that I think that the Board of Finance needed to make that decision, and the Board of Selectmen.
And, this information about Osborne Hill, that is a new piece of information. So I don't want to speak for the Board of Ed and how that might.
Well, yeah, and that doesn't necessarily mean that a renovation is feasible. They're not ready to say that the renovation of Dwight is the right thing to do. They didn't say that today. They have a lot of work left to do on that. Like, without an ECC, let's say the ECC wasn't there.
Yeah.
That would certainly alleviate space pressures for the existing footprint, but it still might not be the right thing to do.
For the existing building.
Yeah, the existing
I
building,
mean, it's more
still might not be.
something needs to be done at Dwight, either way.
Their spaces need to be reconfigured, and they need to know, and they have to put HVAC in, so.
And also, I think, Christine, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't there a lot of discussion about trying to incorporate ECCs actually in elementary schools because of the cost savings, because you're having a new leader of the school and janitors and support staff, things like that?
I mean, there, potentially is operational efficiencies by having, one less parking lot to potentially, if it's a new site.
And staff.
And staffing. And also, just for state reimbursement, there was an incentive at the state level in terms of potential for reimbursement if an ECC was attached to an elementary school. That's another part of just the.
Yeah, I remember that.
Perspective. And transportation also, just, years ago, the board was talking about a one-side ECC. Transportation is getting to be more of a challenge and wanting to shorten the bus, the amount of time little ones are spending on the bus, and just the rising cost of transportation, trying to be as efficient as we can be is that. So a lot of different, parts of this puzzle, but it's.
Well, Mr. Testani today said, he would not want to do a 5-section standalone ECC, but if we were talking 10 or maybe 12, then it becomes, in his mind, that's something that should be studied. It's worth studying. So.
All right. Thank you for the update.
Sure. Next item is the Rose Kaler investigation report. As mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Rose Kaler performed a very thorough study of any potential conflict of interest between David Becker's business relationships with his family business and his role as interim chief financial officer. And she agreed with the Ethics Commission. There's no conflict of interest that exists between Mr. Becker's business relationships, prior business relationships, familial business relationships, and/or familiar relationships, and his former role as interim chief financial officer, and/or his current role as chief operating officer for the town. So further, he engaged in no improper conduct. So that's pretty definitive, and hopefully this will put this issue to rest and put it to rest for the people of Fairfield as well. Any announcements?
I would ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Yes.
So I wrote something up that I felt like I needed to share, and I was hoping I could. I wanted to state clearly and unequivocally that I look forward to the Ethics Commission reviewing the claim by Mr. Gerber that I or my family did something unethical. It is deeply troubling that details of a confidential application involving a residents of our town were unlawfully leaked to members of the Board of Finance, RTM, and members of the Democratic Town Committee and others who had no legal right to access or disseminate that information. This breach of confidentiality is a serious matter, and yet despite the facts, only one narrative is being pushed, a narrative heavily steeped in politics. I urge the perpetuating slanderous claims and irresponsibility of sharing confidential information to stop. I welcome any investigation. I am confident the facts will show that this is nothing more than politically motivated, driven by personal animosity toward me, which I believe is due to my filling my responsibility to represent our community, asking questions on behalf of our community on town matters. To suggest that my inquiry into family contracts was somehow rooted in revenge is it's not just illogical, it ignores the reality of press coverage, letters to the editor, widespread public commentary on social media, and messages submitted to this board about Mr. Becker's family holdings, all of which occurred well before the COO chose to withhold payment on an application that had already been reviewed and approved for a low-income Fairfield family that qualified for assistance. There was no wrongdoing, I believe, on the part of Human Services, and I'm confident there was none done on my part. The repeated slander being promoted by the first selectman must stop. The complete lack of decorum, personal attacks, and are undermining our board's ability to conduct its business and has created a hostile environment. I hope we can move forward with civility, integrity, and commitment to the truth. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before you joined, I talked a little bit about Robert's rules and how we're going to have to commit, for the sake of the town, for the sake of the people of Fairfield, we have to commit to following Robert's rules in the future. And if we need a brush up on Robert's rules, we can have a special meeting to have an expert come in and run us through them, so that I think, I agree the town deserves better, and we have to pledge to do better. So thank you. Anything to announce?
Just that I agree with that sentiment, that we set an example not only for other elected boards and commissions, but also for our residents. I would not want a repeat of the last meeting for multiple reasons, and I think that we are committing to doing better. So I appreciate your leadership in this, and and look forward to working together to promote the civil discourse, try to keep the personal feelings away from the table, and we just focus our efforts on debating issues and doing the work for a community I know we all love. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, we adjourn. Thank you.